Hello, good day everyone. I am good news from the King's Farm and Industry. I'm not alone today though, so I will just introduce him. Uh, he's Peter Ehanire. So we've been together for a very long time and we started the King's Farm and Industry together by the year 2015 and till date we are still together. Some of you might be seeing him for the very first time. Yeah, that's because when I'm running video like this, he's always behind the camera or he's in one or two states uh, supervising our construction there. Okay, since he came in this morning, he's been asking series of questions. So I was just like, okay, no problem. Let's just create a platform for him to ask the questions so that you guys will benefit. Okay, and before we go into today's question and answering, if you've not subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, please subscribe, give us a like, and press the notification bell. If you are seeing this video on any other platforms, please go to YouTube, type the King's Farm and Industry, give us a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. So,
Okay. Sir, there has been this question that normally comes up and it pops up most of the time, especially from our intending and upcoming snail farmers. And the question is, what should be the time that mortality should be expected the most? Because this most times they say, we don't know the time how to regulate this mortality. So, sir, can you please explain to us, buttress further, the time to expect mortality the most?
okay, there are times you should expect mortality. Okay, when we talks about mortality, it's not just like you losing all your snails or losing all your snails. What we're talking about here is that some snails dying in the process. Okay, before I start, I want to say this. There's a mortality percentage set by the professionals themselves for all livestock, which is 5% per production. So that means if you have 1,000 snails, 5% of that 1,000, which is 50 pieces of snails, will die within the said period of production. You get me now? So this 150 pieces we are talking about, which is the 5%, for the novice, will increase it to 10%, which is 100
100.
snails. If you have 1,000 snails, so you are expected to lose 100 to death. So we call this natural death. Okay, so even if they are not natural, but there are things that will warrant them. There are things that will lead to them. So the time you should expect these snails or these deaths to take place at the farm, number one is at the point of stocking. When you stock the farm newly, okay, we are in a greenhouse now though. So at the time you bring the snails to the farm, from that very date in like a month later,
Yeah.
which is about 4 weeks, so you should expect mortality within these times. And then when we have climate changes, like we are moving in from dry season to rainy season, you get me now. So you should expect mortality within this time because where between November to March, we normally observe what is called harmattan.
Yeah.
Now, this harmattan projects the kind of climate that snails that doesn't work well with snails. So during the day like this, we have dry wind and excessive heat. Then during the night, we have excess cold. So this will force the snails to hibernate or estivate. But since we are running the farm, we water the farm all through this set period. So some of the snails will not survive it. Some will not survive. Yeah, within this time, some will not make it. So all these ones that will not make it fall below that 10%. So picking one or two destinies within this time, don't allow it should not call for alarm because it's just something you observe,
Experience.
you should experience. Then we now have the other time, like as I said, when you stock the farm newly, within the first 1 month, you expect some mortality. The reason is this: during transportation, some of the snails are not some, all the snails are exposed to stress. Okay, this doesn't happen in snail farming alone. It happens to all other animals. This is why at the moment the animals arrive the farm, you are advised to give them vitamin. Don't give them food instantly, give them water so that it can help them overcome the stress they've gone through. Even at that, some will still not survive it. You see, because stress is one thing that animals don't really cope with like that. Then the whether you are using bags or baskets in transporting these snails in terms of packaging, the heat that will get to the snails, all the snails will not be the same, because some will be at the at the surface, some will be at the base, then some will be at the by the side, then some will be in the middle. You get to now. So the heat that will get to them is not the same. That's why when they get to the farm, some will not survive it. Some will die before they get to the farm. Then some will die that night. Some might die the next day and all of that. So within the first 4 weeks, which is the first 1 month, you should expect 1 or 2 mortalities. You get me? But this fall within the 10% we are talking about. So when the mortality becomes too high, becomes very high, becomes a daily thing and it's not stopping, then you have to go into research to know what is going on, because this is no longer natural.
So that will lead me to my other question. This recent argument about the greenhouse, the normal pen system. So, as most of us now know, by the grace of God, we are able to kind of come up with another way of kind of bringing the ecosystem in the forest for the snails down to our farms. So, sir, in your own view, and I mean, although some people in quotes still feel that the penthouse system can still kind of work in a way, and they are still kind of saying where is better than the greenhouse. So, sir, so for you, in your own way, how do you feel that those people in the that are still using the penthouse system can bring this ecosystem to kind of cut down the high rate of mortality in the penthouse system?
Wow, that's very good. You see, we've been talking more on this housing system. You get so once the foundation is faulty, the holy book says that the righteous ones can do nothing. You get so snails are animals that doesn't have medication, no medicine to attend to them. So you should be very careful on selecting the kind of housing system you pick for them. Okay, why intensive system are working for other animals is because all these other animals have medicine. So when they are going through stress, for instance, there's particular medicine you can give to them that will help them out. So when they are going through one or two stuff like that, there are medicine that can help them out. They have what's the name? Medicine for viral disease,
Mm.
bacterial disease, and what's the name? Parasite disease. But we don't have these things like this in snail farming. So when you already been hit with mortality in intensive system, it's going to continue. So what we now advise is that try to try to create a space within your farm. If you have the space, try to set up a greenhouse like this. So even if you cannot set it up very big, you get me. So you can
Yeah.
start small. You can start small. So I don't advocate using wood to set up a greenhouse. I don't say that. I don't support using wood to set up a greenhouse. But if you don't have much fund and based on you've already stock, you can use wood to set it up. You get so you just know that you're going to have termite issues and all of that. The wood might get rotten on time. So as the time progress, within when the farm was set up, in 2 months or 3 months, you can now transfer some of the snails from here to there in order to keep them alive. Then you start making preparation to set up a standard greenhouse. You get me? So that's the only thing I can advise.
Still on the mortality issue. Um, Sir, so do you feel that you mentioned something earlier about the 5% that yeah normally we should expect that when we stock newly
Yeah.
5 to and for the newcomers 10% maximum.
Yeah.
So, sir, but apart from that, do you feel that any other thing can still lead to the high rate of mortality in our farm, i.e., the lackadaisical attitudes towards the farm, or maybe our concentrate or the feed we normally administer to them? So, can you please shed the little light on this?
Okay. There are many things that can lead to mortality aside the wrong housing system. Even when you have the right housing system, just like on my previous post, I was telling them on things that can lead to mortality. For instance, if the farm is poorly constructed, you were with me at Ogun State.
Yeah,
Yeah, on that rescue mission. You saw that even in the greenhouse, 80 to 90% of the snails there died. They've died before we got there.
yeah,
So the greenhouse doesn't stop snail from dying. It only projects them, provide them with the natural environment, that ecosystem and all of that. But when you mess up with the snails, when you do things that you're not supposed to do, believing that they are in their natural environment, definitely mortalities will follow. You get, like the other day, the feed they get to the snails here, they didn't know that the last train at the other end, there was leftover on it, so they didn't remove it. The feed was there for about 2 days like that. You get me? So when I came in the third day to go and to just check what was happening here, I saw some snails that died of bloating on the other end. Why? Because they feed on this feed that have been these concentrates that have been there for about 3 days. So when the feed, when you refuse to remove the leftover, what will happen is that the feed will begins to ferment, at this time developing other bacteria and acidic properties. So when the snail will feed on it at this particular time, it will result into bloating. And bloating in snails, 90% of bloating in snails leads to death. You get me? So that's one thing. For instance, I've been saying it: if you feed your snails with formulated feed or fruits in the morning, remove the leftover. You get. So we have other mismanagement stuff that can actually lead to mortality. So that will be discussion for another day.
thank you very much, sir. Let's not do it too much. I'll just ask you just one more question.
Okay.
So, sir, concerning our upcoming and intending farmers, that because normally, like most of our viewers out there, they might have come across so many videos where so many people have complained about too high rates of mortality. So many farmers has closed down their farms and all of that. So, sir, what can just be your way of advising them? And I mean, to some of them that are planning on closing down their farms and those intending farmers. So, what can just be your advice for them
Wow.
to just
Wow.
do?
Okay. I've been telling those who are willing to hear, snail farming is not different from any other livestock business. Just that snails themselves are different from all other animals. You get. So my advice to everyone is simple. Snails can pay you in millions. Yeah, snail farming is highly lucrative. It's not that time consuming. You get me? So snail farming can pay you in millions, but the only way it can pay you in millions is that you got to approach snail farming in a business mindset, business order. So when you engage snail farming for as a business for survival, here you can feed anything to the snails. Here you can take advice from anyone on social platforms. You get me? So definitely it's not good, you're going to end up in mortality. But as you are about to start your farm, my whole advice to you is that see snail farming as a very lucrative business, invest big, but still create a natural environment for them, which is the greenhouse. And then if you are already into it and you are having mortalities, you get me, and you've gone to the wrong housing system, what I will advise is just like I said earlier, set up a mini greenhouse. If you don't have the fund, set up a mini greenhouse, boost your strength back financially, then set up a standard greenhouse. You get me? So, and if you've already set up the intensive system and it's a very big one and all the snails have died, you still have interest in snail farming. My advice is that set up a greenhouse. There are other livestock farming you can actually use that intensive system for. You get me? So you not end up breaking it down, all of that. So thank you
Okay.
very, very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you for your time.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. Bye,
Have
sir.
have a wonderful day ahead, everyone.